Success Insight shares the stories of the people with passion and drive who make things happen in the world. Here's your host, Howard Fox.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Success Insight podcast. Our guest today is Tom Teague. Now, you'll recall Tom was on our show a couple weeks ago. He was on to talk about his new book, Online Business Success for Thought Leaders. And we invited Tom to come back on to really kind of dissect the material in the book and really to highlight for all of you entrepreneurs, especially the online entrepreneurs, thought leaders, of what it means to run your business or parts of your business online. Now, before we dive in with Tom, I just want to give you a little bit of background information about him. Tom has spent more than 30 years in a traditional corporate career, leading software development teams to support collaborating engineering communities within large organizations. Now, Tom left that life behind. He now combines this practical experience perspective for building software systems with modern online marketing and sales skills. So he now coaches thought leaders and provides them a systematic way to create and deliver value for their communities using their online business systems. And as we just mentioned, he is the author of the new book, Online Business Success for Thought Leaders. Tom, welcome back to the Success Insight podcast.
Thank you, Howard. Love being here with you today.
Fantastic. Now, Tom, when we met a couple of weeks ago and published this episode just before the launch of your book, and now you are literally in the thick of things and putting into practice all those steps that you have learned and lessons that you have learned over the years. And so what I would love if we could do for our listeners is let's begin to kind of paint a picture for what it's like to pursue an online business program and what do these thought leaders need in order to make it successful. So let's kind of do that dissecting with you right now about the book.
Sounds great, Howard. Just to remind you and your listeners, if they listen to the first episode, there are basically 4 major steps for creating an online business successfully. The first part is clarifying business strategy. The second part is selecting systems. The third part is creating online assets. And the fourth part is sprinting to success. And I thought today we might just focus on the first part, which I consider to be, at least in my experience, it is probably the most important thing to do first. And that's to get very clear on what your business is and what your business strategy is going to be. You know, if you'd like, we could spend a little bit more detail about talking about what does that mean, clarifying your online business strategy.
You know, you and I could have a little chuckle here because I know from our first conversation and because for our listeners, Tom and I go back a number of years, we both embarked on careers in coaching and helping others, trying to build a business with really, I would say, minimal understanding of what it took and the level of effort. And, you know, we found ourselves, some cases, spending a good deal of money for potential quote unquote solutions that really didn't serve our need. And so this idea of clarifying business strategy, I know since getting to know you and from my own work, this is so incredibly important. And I believe wholeheartedly that many new entrepreneurs come up well short of what they need in terms of understanding and clarifying what their business strategy is. So yeah, let's get into it.
Okay, sounds great, Howard. And you know, my story is I would say I spent a good 2.5 years trying to figure this stuff out. Just figuring out what is my business for sure. Because many entrepreneurs, and I was in this situation, and you are too, I know, it's like there are multiple things that you could do. So what's the main thing that's gonna be a good, successful business and something that you're happy doing? It's not always easy to figure that out.
Well, you know, we go back to school, we leave a job, maybe we've have a side hustle. And, you know, for our listeners, we have another series called Side Hustle Saturday, where folks, they have a Monday through Friday job, but in addition to it, they also have other work. Maybe it's they're pursuing their true gift or their passion, and they're not really aware of what it means to clarifying that business strategy. They really haven't given any thought to, how am I going to launch this? How am I going to make this something that's sustainable for me? So, Tom, what are some of the steps in this really important system that you have? What are some of the things that a entrepreneur needs to have in place and some of the questions they need to be asking?
Basically, as I was thinking about how to present this, it was very confusing. And my background is I never really studied business in school and college. I was trained as an engineer and I worked as a manager, and I was working as a manager in a large corporate setting. So I really had no idea what it meant to be a small independent business. So that was the first thing. And that's in chapter 1. It's called Understanding the Thought Leader Business. And in that, I really tried to understand what is a thought leader business and what is an entrepreneur and what is an entrepreneur enterprise and things like that. That's basically where I got started, was just thinking about, okay, some basic definitions, what is an entrepreneur? What is an enterprise? And I discovered when I went to the dictionary that I actually had been, in some sense, an entrepreneur. I was an entrepreneur inside of a corporation, because entrepreneurs are people who organize and manage any enterprise with considerable initiative and risk. Well, I did that inside my corporate positions. And an enterprise is just any important and difficult project or activity that requires some boldness or energy, something to kind of move the ball. And I realized, well, okay, I have been doing those things, but what's the distinction now? What does a thought leader do? And thought leader entrepreneurs make a positive difference by delivering educational and inspirational content, keyword content, products and services that support the given community in overcoming challenges and achieving their aspirational goals. So that was the definition that okay, that's what a thought leader does. And then I got to thinking about, okay, what does a business do? And the business has basically two functions: to attract customers and serve customers. And then there's a third function, which is a kind of a support function for the business. And if you look at that and you think about the C-suite, the CEO, the CMO, the COO, and so forth, as a solo entrepreneur or as a leader of a small team, chances are you get to fulfill all of those C-suite roles in a small business. That got me thinking then, basically it's a content production and delivery business. So content is key. And I put together a little diagram in the book, which I really can't describe here in too much detail, but just you have free content and you have paid content. And the free content is what you do to engage people in marketing conversations to get them to purchase your paid content. And it's through the paid content that you help customers transform their lives through the systems that you have. And then there's support systems underneath all of that.
So a question that I have is, I am a coach. Let's use me as a pseudo example here.
Mm-hmm.
I have made a decision that I want to go back to school. I'm fed up with my career. I don't want to do this anymore. I need to have something in my life and do work or vocation that fulfills me, that I feel like I'm making a difference. And so I go and I get my coach training, become an accredited coach. And there's thousands of us, Tom, like that all around the world. Now, what are the questions that I should be asking myself, or would you be asking me if you were working with me to clarify that piece of the business as a thought leader? What am I trying to provide and who needs it?
Yeah, okay. That's actually the subject of chapter 3 in the book. It's called Seeking Clarity About Your Business.
That was not a plant, by the way, folks.
I realized that, and that you'll notice we skipped chapter 2, but that's okay, because these are really critical questions to ask. Basically, I was thinking about this and reflecting on it, and of course, I had a lot of training, from various mentors as well. But I really came up with what I call the 8 M's of business clarity. And so the 8 M's are 1, motivation; 2, money; 3, mindset; 4, market; 5, messaging; 6, methodology; 7, mission, and 8, movement. So it's a matter of systematically going through all of those topics. And, those are a mix of kind of personal aspirations and then aspirations for your business as well. As a solo entrepreneur, as a leader of a small business, the blend between a personal expression and your business is kind of fuzzy. And, as a coach, you're putting a lot of your heart into your coaching. And so and also you want something that'll be satisfying as well as make the money that you can use to sustain your business. So all these dimensions are important, and they're kind of big topics. And in the book, I kind of talked about them in general. And I also have some journal prompt exercises at the end of the chapter that people can use to start asking these questions in more detail. So there are some exercises you can do to explore that and to get more clarity about what you want.
And I love that about books like Online Business Success for Thought Leaders, because at the end of the chapter, you're giving the reader exercises or an action to help them add additional clarity around what it is they're trying to achieve. Because again, I think about coaching is I hear coaches say, oh, I just want to make a difference. I like helping people. But yeah, you can do that and you can learn or begin to learn the coaching conversation and decide, yeah, I'm going to leave my job and I'm going to become a coach. But they have no idea about how to actually go from that idea into, something that it's not transparent, it's opaque, it's taking shape. And I think this is where books like this are of value. Now, just out of curiosity, in your practice with clients as you take them through the system, and I know you do that, and we're going to talk about that, do you work with them on each step within, for example, step 1 in the chapters? Do you work with your clients through the content of each one of those chapters, or are they expected to go somewhere else?
Yeah, well, basically what happens is this whole thing around business clarity. A lot of people come to me because they really want to build their website or build their online business. And that's great. But I know from my software development experience, you can spend a lot of time and money and effort developing the wrong thing if you're not clear about what the requirements are. To use the software terminology, you can build the wrong software if you don't have the requirements correct. So the requirements in this case are getting very clear about who your customers are, getting very clear about, like, methodology is really a key one, getting really clear on how it is that you help people make their transformation. I call it from point A to point B, from wherever they are to wherever they want to go. It's important for you to have real clarity about what are the steps to get from A to B and how do you move people through those transformations. So especially want to focus clearly on that. But also the other thing is being clear about your market. Who are your customers? There's another M called messaging, which is how do you connect with your market? The language you use on your website, on your emails, on your live events, and so forth, you need to be using language that will connect with your target customers. So these are all really important things to get clear on before you start trying to build software systems.
Fair enough. Tom, what final insights do you have for our listeners on step 1, clarifying business strategy? We've talked a lot. You've gone through the chapter, some of the key points, and really what you just laid out for us. But, any other final thoughts before we close out our conversation today?
Yeah, I just want to mention the other 2 chapters briefly. Chapter 2 is about engaging your audience. And a lot of people start off building a website, and it's what I call it's an information brochure, or it's, really doesn't do much for driving business. How do you engage your audience when they come to your website? So it's really important to think about your website as not, a lot of people think about their websites as like an online resume, or it's all about me. But actually, the way you design really good websites is when it's about your customer and helping them, interacting with them, helping them solve their problems. And the other half of that is in chapter 4. We call it defining your business strategy. And that is, what are the steps along what I call a customer journey? Because you're meeting people, let's say on social media, they've never heard of you, they're just starting to get to know you. how do you bring them from the point where they've never heard of you, first of all, to the first purchase? And secondly, maybe bringing them through a series of purchases at higher and higher price points so that they eventually get to your coaching program, for example. So I always tell coaches that every coach needs a product of some kind because it's really hard to get people who, unless you're working by referrals, where people, where your clients are really sending prospective clients your way, it's hard to build a relationship in a short time to get people to spend, say, several $1,000s on a coaching program without giving them the opportunity to experience you at a lower price and time risk viewpoint. So I always say coaches need products. And in that chapter 4, we talk about, I call it the customer journey. Again, the customer journey is the backbone of your online business. To get very clear on what's the journey from the customer starting out on social media, they come to your website, your blog, maybe consuming your book, like in my case, a book, then moving on to an online course, and then eventually into a coaching program. So that's a very critical part. And clarifying that customer journey is the critical first part before you try to start building any online systems to support that, because those are the requirements. You actually don't build any software systems until you understand what that customer journey is intended to be.
I wish I had known that way back when I got started, because it wasn't until that became crystal clear in my head that I realized perhaps the missteps I had taken, and then realized too the path and the adjustment I need to make, to my journey. Tom, I know we have 3 more steps to talk about, selecting systems, creating online assets, and sprinting to success. And I know each one of those steps has chapters associated with it. And so really excited to, have you come back for selecting systems, because that'll be the next one on our agenda. Until then, where should our listeners go to learn more about you and your work?
Well, I think the best place to go is just to go to onlinebusinesssuccessbook.com. And what you'll see when you get there, by the time this recording is available, I'll have a free book offer there. And I mean a real book. It's not like a PDF download. So what it means is, there's $7.95 to handle shipping and handling, but you will get a real paperback book. And I have some nice bonuses planned to go with it as well.
Fantastic. And any social sites that you want to introduce our listeners to?
Yeah, basically, you can find me on Facebook. I think if it, I haven't actually searched for myself on Facebook.
Choice Digital Strategies.
Yeah,
I'll cue it up for you.
Oh, that works better. Yeah, just go to Choice Digital Strategies. That's my business page. And also, if you search on Tom Teague, I'll be one of the several Tom Teagues that you'll find on Facebook. And also on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn as well.
All right. I find it incredible that there's a lot of Tom Teagues, but we'll let that go. And by the way, I do my homework, so I actually know where people are going to go to find you. But I expect you to know that as well. Tom, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the Success Insight podcast for this series that we're producing together, Online Business Success for Thought Leaders, and based on your new book, and really excited to continue this conversation.
I'm excited too, Howard. Thanks for having me.
Very good. All right, folks, we've just been chatting with Dr. Tom Teague. And as we talked about at the beginning, Tom has left his life as a corporate software development guru behind. And now he works with thought leaders to create, craft, develop, think about, talk about what they need to do to create an online business success strategy. And today we kind of started to take a little bit more of a deep dive into the structure of his book. We spent a good amount of time talking about step 1, which is clarifying your business strategy. Now, do come back and you'll have more insights into the other steps in the system. But until then, you can visit Tom on his website, the onlinebusinesssuccessbook.com, where you can go out and get a free copy of the book. And as Tom said, this is the real deal. This is not an online version, but it's an actual physical copy of the book. You can also visit him on his website, choicedigitalstrategies.com, as well as on LinkedIn and Facebook, and we'll provide those backlinks as well. You can also find us, Success Insight Podcast, on our website just by typing in successinsightpodcast.com. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you thought about today's episode. You can also find us on our Facebook and LinkedIn pages, Success Insight Podcast, and we are on all of the major podcast platforms, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Spotify. On Spotify, we also have a playlist for coaches and consultants, and Tom's episodes will be up there. We're also on Pandora and iHeartRadio, and you can also find us on YouTube. Okay, folks, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, go out there, have a phenomenal day, and we will see you on the next episode of the Success Insight Podcast. Take care now.
Success Insight is a production of Fox Coaching and First Story Strategies. Find us online, successinsightpodcast.com.